Bruce Allen is out. Ron Rivera is in. The Redskins are embarking on a new era. The Riverboat era sets steam out of Port Washington. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, they've been terrible for a decade now with Bruce Allen lingering around there in that dilapidated hut. Ron Rivera in to try and rebuild things, and everything starts for the Washington Redskins with the quarterback position. A lot of people tweet me for whatever reason and say, are the Redskins going to draft Joe Burrow? I'm like, no, he's not going to be there. Like, what about Tua? I'm like, no, they're not drafting Tua. They're not taking a freaking quarterback. They're in on Dwayne Haskins. That is Daniel Snyder's guy. But what they need to do is they need to beef up this offensive line. It was questionable last year. It's been hurt a bunch. Running back position, also a major question mark. Darius Geis, who has flashed when he's been on the field, but has not been able to stay healthy. And Adrian Peterson, who is potentially even older than Ryan Wilson, are right there. Tight end, but Vernon Davis and Jeremy Sprinkle. So you got a guy who was great in the 2010s and a guy who got busted shoplifting at the Belk Bowl? You're telling me that's the answer at tight end? I feel like wide receiver might be good, but this Breech is an offense to me that is lacking in terms of firepower.
Yeah, lacking in terms of everything. I think the only thing you said wasn't a need was wide receiver, and that's because they found Terry McLaurin in the draft, and he was one of the very few offensive players that crushed it for the Redskins in 2019. But you look at all their other holes. They need to find a tight end. Vernon Davis isn't getting any younger. I'll be surprised if he plays more than another year. And the offensive line, look, if you're going to go with Dwayne Haskins as your quarterback, if you're going to have a young guy back there, he can't be getting hit every other play, and that's basically what happened. That's what this Redskins offensive line couldn't block anyone. They gave up 50 sacks in 2019, one of only 5 teams that gave up 50 or more sacks. But I do think that one key player they will get back is Trent Williams. That will help a lot on the offensive line. So maybe running back, you got to kind of cross your fingers, hope guys can stay healthy. This is going to be an interesting off-season for Ron Rivera, but I would definitely start working up, making the offensive line better, and then go from there.
Well, they're going to try to make the offensive line better in the draft, depending on what happens at number 2, should they stay put. Chase Young is the obvious choice there. But you mentioned Trent Williams. His contract's up in 2021. He didn't play in 2019 because he didn't trust the Redskins, so I don't know how eager he's going to be to come back. Assuming he does, they still have 3 other guys whose contract will be up this spring. So if they decide to target an offensive lineman, should they trade down from number 2, guys like Andrew Thomas out of Georgia make a ton of sense. Guys like Jedrick Wills out of Alabama make a ton of sense. Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa makes a ton of sense. Those guys, Thomas and Wirfs, can play right or left tackle. Wills play primarily right tackle. It doesn't matter at this point. Just get big bodies up there who are successful at what they do and put them there to protect Dwayne Haskins. You mentioned scary Terry McLaurin having a fantastic season. They still need more help on at wide receiver. Should they trade down and have some options in the first round? Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama could be a guy they target. CeeDee Lamb, my favorite wide receiver in this draft class. And even Laviska Shenault, who reminds me of Anquan Bolden, but faster. If that's something that interests you, Ron Rivera, take a look at Laviska. So these are choices and options that the Redskins could have, assuming they move down from that number 2 overall pick, stockpile some draft picks, because they don't have a second-round pick, Wilbur.
Yeah, and if they stay at number 2, I think your little portion of the program on the defensive side is going to be pretty easy, Ryan, because what they need help in the secondary, and they need help on the edge. There's an obvious name there. Josh Norman, probably out of town, 27th in total defense last year. Are those the 2 top spots to look at, Breech, on the defensive side?
Oh, absolutely. I'm 50% convinced that Dan Snyder brought in Ron Rivera and fired Bruce Allen and said, here's the keys to the car, Ron. I need you to fix this defense, because Ron Rivera is a defensive coach, and this defense was a disaster in 2019. The secondary, you mentioned Josh Norman. He might have been the worst addition to that over the past couple of years. That definitely has not worked out, and I don't think Ron Rivera is interested in reuniting with Norman. I'll be surprised if he's still there next season. Fabian Moreau hasn't been great, so they just really need to revamp that entire secondary. And then you do look at their pass rushing, at their defensive line, and they do have good players in Ryan Kerrigan and Montez Sweat, but with the number 2 overall pick, I am not sure you can pass up Chase Young, and I know Ron Rivera would love to have a huge pass rush. I know Ryan will tell us more about that, but that is what you do. You start there, revamping your pass rush, and then you go from there and fix everything else after that.
If the Redskins do not take Chase Young at number 2, they should hire Bruce Allen and then fire him again for not drafting Chase Young 2nd overall. Just take him second overall. It's that easy. It's not complicated. Don't make it any tougher than it needs to be. I don't even know if I would answer phone calls from other teams who want to trade up to number 2. He is a transcendent talent. I think he's going to be better than the Bosa brothers. He had 16.5 sacks this season. Didn't play in a couple games because of some silly violation, and was had double and triple teams the final 3 games of Ohio State's season. He is that good. You pair him, as John mentioned, opposite Montez Sweat. Problem solve. Some other edge rushers that could be in the mix should they trade down for reasons that I can't imagine why they would do it. A.J. Epinesa out of Iowa. He reminds me, body type-wise, of T.J. Watt. He's 6'6", 280. He is not T.J. Watt, but he can play inside and outside. And Clavon Chason, who is much skinnier, 250. He needs to add a few pounds, but he is quick first step off the edge. Harasser in the backfield, if you will, and he's all over the field, high motor guy. Those are 3 different types of players, but if you're at number 2, it's pretty easy. Chase Young.
Reason to be optimistic. Chase Young at 2, add him to what the Redskins have, improve the coaching staff, get a little bit more out of Dwayne Haskins. Maybe the future is brighter in Washington than it has been in the last, 8 years or so.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.